Is it balancing out? Balancing out? It ain't time yet. I'm using all of the blades. That's the beauty of like the fade, man. It's like when you're doing it in different sections and just knowing what the outcome is gonna be. It's like I was going to say it's the best thing in the world, but I'd be lying if I said that. But we on TV, so, I don't say what the best thing in the world is, but you know what I mean, right? Because I'm on TV. See you, that lady laugh. See? She's still talking about it. See, I bet that was about time. Oh, it's coming. What blade is next? This the one. What's next? Nope. See? Oh, hey. If I'm gonna use all my blades. Oh, hey. And every time I change blades, remember, I don't go up as high the next time. Huh? I like that. Respecting your levels, yep. But without creating a line. And if you see a line coming, then you gotta get it out. So respecting the levels without creating another line. Please don't create another line. Because it's really kind of faded almost, but you're just making sure that that last line is out of there. And then y'all also got to give an account when they light skin. It's like sometimes like the pigmentation of their head can also, give an account of how the fade look as well. So don't beat up on yourself when it comes to that, because there's only so much you can do about that. All right, what blade is next? 3 out. No, I used the 5 out on the bottom. I did 5 out on the bottom, but I used my masters for my first line though. Now, see, the beauty of this is that it's certain areas that you really don't have to fade, but the areas that you got to get, then you get it with the 3 out. Because it's really kind of almost out. So you see the difference between using your liners first, then using your masters closed, because when you use your liners first, it's harder to get that line out of there. When you could have just used your masters closed and then balled it out up underneath that. And what you put the line in with, that's what you should be able to take it out with, for the most part. And I use my finger kind of like as like a kickstand, sort of. So I won't go deeper than what I want to go. It's kind of like having control over it. All right, now that's that side. Now I'm gonna use my masters for the other side. I'm gonna make it the same way. Am I gonna be able to do that? This side and this side. Can't wait for this? Okay. And then other thing too is, I normally do this at the end, but since I'm doing it, like around the front of the head, you want to make sure the hair lays down enough so when you line it, there's no hair sticking up, just right around the edge. Because because the teeth are closer together, it's gonna make for you to lay the hair down much better. All right. Now this is gonna be quicker because I'm just using the master, so I don't have to keep switching blades. So here we go. Just masters. So as y'all can see, I'm opening and closing as I need it. But the way I'm able to do that is because of the fact that I'm using my masters as a, so the more you lay it down, the more hair you're gonna take off. The more you lift it up, the bigger you make it. So now I'm making it a 1.5, a 1/8, a 1, a 0.8, so on and so forth. And it'll come with time. And then for this, I gotta pump my chair down a little bit lower because of how I need to get in there. So, all right. All the way open right now. And I got it all the way open now until I establish where my fade is. And then I start opening and closing it accordingly. Now you see how much quicker I'm able to do the fade? It's the same thing. So when you learn it like this, one of the greatest things about this is that you're able to minimize how long it take you to cut a head. When you're able to just use one pair of clippers. And then as I'm cutting, it's like I'm not going straight in. I'm coming up and out, as you can see. Just want to explain that, which is how I'm able to not put a line. And then I'm picking in certain areas that I want to kind of be blending in with just a part of my clipper and not the whole clipper, which is how I'm able to get it the same length as when I just used all the blades. What's the question? What was you saying?
try to keep still use that side.
So the thing about it is starting like once you, because even when you line, you know you're supposed to line from right to left, so on and forth. And then if you're left-handed versus right-handed, right? But when you've been doing it as long as I've been doing it, it's like you just kind of know, right? So I don't even got to look at the other side to see. I don't got to look at the other side to see if I'm making it even or not because I know the parts of his head because I analyzed it before like when I started combing it before I started cutting it. So I analyzed it just to make sure that I'm going even. That's why it's important to know your temporal area, the crown of the head, the occipital, because I'm using all the stuff theoretically to ensure that I do the same thing that I did on this side, I do it on that side. Because I know how the fade is supposed to look.
So you recommend going with that 5 out most of the time for the ball runs?
Not with the first line. So I used my master's clothes to do the first line, and I gave myself about an inch, then I went underneath with the 5 out.
Okay.
Because if you use a ball like a liners or your 5 out or even your triple, if you use something that's too low to start off with, it makes it more difficult for you to get your line out, which is what I try and tell people, right? I'm not saying you can't make it super bald, but why would you start off with something then at the end you'll be saying I can't get the line out? It don't make sense, right? So make it easier for yourself. That's all. And then like since I started with my masters, I didn't use my masters to get that because I was gonna bald it out anyway. So preserve yourself from having to use extra unnecessary time with just doing that and then come up under with a 5 out. So you make it work just like these masters. You see it's taking me quick. I can get this fade done quicker with just this one pair of clippers than having to keep switch 1/8, 1.5, so on and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just really depends on, where you are at the time in your day, in your schedule. You might have to skip some steps, but you got to know what steps you can skip and still get the same product.
On right now while you're hitting that middle part.
I got them all the way open while I'm hitting the middle part. I got them all the way open, and then I just kind of establish. And I'm using my finger as like my kickstand, like to make sure that I don't go right. So my finger is kind of like my guard a little bit almost, and then I lift up because I can go up his whole head like this, which I'm doing right now, and don't cut no hair off because I got a big old imaginary guard on there. But the more you lean it in, the more hair is going to come off. So what I did was I established that in how I'm cutting the hair in order to be able to make sure that whatever level I need to get the hair at, I can do it by just holding my clippers a certain kind of way. And his hair is different on this side. So the waves on this hair are different. The pattern on this side of his hair is different on the other side of the head because this side go more to the front like that and the other side go more down. We almost there? And then a lot of people don't know how to cut in between the waves either. So it's sometimes you ever see haircuts where it look like it's like big gashes in between the waves. That's because of the fact that if you don't properly comb and brush the hair out, when people that got a wave pattern, then if you just start cutting in at it, you're cutting away part of what should have been with that wave because you didn't comb and brush it first. You just start cutting it. And then when you start cutting it now, if you would have laid it down, then it would all came together. And then you cut it in sections in order to make it make sense. But if you just start cutting at it and you ain't brushed and combed it, then you go cut like a gash out there. It's kind of like a cow lick that you probably just cut. And that's why I don't be looking even when some, people do hairs like that. Sometimes I hate that I'm a perfectionist because Like stuff that the client wouldn't be able to see, it's like I can see, and I'm not okay with it unless I fix it, which is a good trait to have as a barber. Pretty good trait to have as a barber. It's coming together like the other side. I'm gonna get some prizes. I give y'all my Cash App, okay? So y'all can know what my Cash App is for my prizes. If y'all don't want to come to the, go to the store and get me nothing from like Neiman's or Gucci or something like that. Dollar Tree, really? And see, a lot of people don't, afterward, they don't come down with their clipper like I'm doing right here in order to, to seal a haircut. So then when they get home and brush it again, then the fade end up looking different. All right, we're almost done with this, and then I'm gonna use the fibers and show y'all how that go. How I do the fibers and why. I'm gonna use an airbrush too. Use the airbrush and the fiber, so stay tuned for that. See, that's the only difference, and it's not me making excuses, but when a person is light-skinned, again, and they have certain deficiencies in their head, and they have waves too, it's almost like, it's like really hell trying to get everything to balance out. But I mean, you get it balanced out, and for me, it's like I don't be satisfied until I get it where I need it to be at. So you got to kind of cut in between where the deficiencies and all of that stuff may be at as well. And I ain't never cut your hair before. So if I would have known this, I would have said, oh no, I'm cutting your head. No, but still good though. Everybody got to get a haircut, even you. Y'all got some questions? Why y'all whispering? Don't be talking behind my back. All right. Another thing that people don't do when they when they cut low haircuts, one of the things they don't do is so one of the things that some people don't do when they cut low haircuts is they don't trim over and get the loose ends. They just be okay with that and they line it, right? but you got all of these hairs sticking up. All of these hairs sticking up all over. So what I do is I close my masters all the way, and then I trim it in sections. This is the time that you allow. The only thing that's cutting is the front, but it's okay to have like the guard, the kickstand, if you will, of the heel of the clipper a little bit, rubbing up against it some, so that way you won't go inside of the haircut and gash it. But you get the loose ends. That completes the haircut. And you do that in sections as well. A lot of people don't do that. Who don't do that? Tell the truth. Who don't do that? Come on. Y'all tell the truth. Who don't do that? Now, it shouldn't be sometimes. It should be all the time where you do it. All right, and you do that all around. That completes the haircut. And I'm following the way his pattern of his hair go too when I'm trimming the loose ends. Can y'all see the difference on both sides from where I trimmed it versus it's not being trimmed yet? Yep. All right. Then I use my left hand on this side. Same thing, get the loose ends. And again, you make that stronger. The more you use it, your opposite hand. So if you're left-handed, right hand. Right-handed, left hand. And do it in little sections. Now, I would gash him if he started laughing. So let me see if you're going to start laughing while I got this up here. You laughing or no? See, he ain't laughing. Then you have to pull the clipper away real quick. You want me to gash him and fix it? Don't got time for it.
That's crazy.
What?
Uh-huh.
All right. So some people use shears. I have shears, I use shears. But, I mean, you can do this instead of having to use shears. And then in some cases of waves, if you shear it and you shear the wrong thing, you might chop a wave off. You might grab a wave and cut it, right? So if you don't know how to properly use your shears, you know, yeah. True story, man. When I was in barber school, I cut this guy forehead with my shears on the haircut this low. I was like, ugh. Yeah, his head ended up, I didn't cut the whole thing though. It's like when I grabbed it, I'm like, ugh. And I came up out of there. All right. So now, reline it. So I'm going to use I have my product, Maximus Man holding spray. All right. So this is very good, and you really don't have to use it, but you do need to use it, so that way, especially when the hair seems oily or wet or something like that, you just kind of I put it on first before I put my fibers. Kind of brush it on there some. All right. Now, so some people line the hair, then put the fibers on. I'm gonna tell you why I don't line the hair and then put the fibers on. I don't line the hair and put the fibers on simply because of the fact of you're gonna have to go over it again, but when you use the card with fibers, you're gonna get more of a buildup around the front of it. So I don't use the card to do the fibers because, again, you're saving yourself time, but you're also allowing the fibers to land. Yep, and then you line it according to that. So because his lining has deficiencies, like everybody don't need the extra, the fibers and the spray and stuff like that. So enhancements is not for everybody, but if somebody's lining has the potential to look crispier and to be fixed, then you want to use the enhancements to kind of, to go along with it. But you have to do it in spurts. You don't want to just pump because, you'll put too much and you don't want it to look unnatural. So I'm kind of doing it where it looks more natural. And I'm going to airbrush too, but I'm going to show you the airbrush is pretty much going to seal it for me. So I'm kind of like being creative along with the fibers first. You don't want to overdo it because some people put fibers and then it look like it's more in the front and then it's lighter in the back. Yeah. But enhancements, you want to make it look as natural as possible. And I'm just kind of letting it fall on his natural hair lining, but then also creating in the areas that needs to be created that may have the deficiencies around the lining. And I'm doing it from a distance. All right. Using my line. Y'all know I really don't like cordless clippers, but I use the liners because I'm in and out and I keep them charged. Because I prefer to use clippers that's completely like hooked up to electricity. All right. I mean, I just started where I started. So I didn't start particularly because, again, remember I said that normally you start from right to left, but again, I just been doing it so long, so I just kind of start where I start. But then if his hair was weaker on one side, you want to start on the weaker side first in order to then kind of maybe make the heavier side match up with the weaker side.
High side, right?
Yep, yep. Yep, absolutely. And then you want to do the lining. You want it to be like a 90-degree angle. Well, that's the purpose of your theory as it relates to the oval heads, the oblong, all of that stuff, right? And you have to cut it according to what looks and what fits the client best at that particular moment. But you always want to do your best to try and do like a 90-degree angle, especially the corners and stuff like that. 45-degree would be that way. This is 90-degree. So you want it to look like a L, if you will. Like Larry, see? A L like Larry. And as y'all can see, I use my finger and my hand as the kickstand, if you will.
So people were like widow's peak. Do you cut deeper to the widow's peak?
Some people want their widow's peak to stay, and some people want it cut off. But you don't cut too much of it off. You know what I'm saying? If the widow's peak basically has too much of a point on there, then you might want to take some of it off. As you can see, I just took off a tad of his in order to make it align. Because the thing is that you don't want to make a person get a haircut where it's a comeback type haircut. Meaning that, you take their line and stuff back so far until when it started growing back and they have to come back and get a haircut. You don't want to force them to come back and get a haircut versus them, wanting to come back and get a haircut. So that's what they called back in the day, comebacks. We take their lining back. And then if you want to just do some cleanup work with your liners, it's okay to do that. Even though I use my 5 out, but some people use shavers again. Everybody can't take shavers, but it's pretty much like the same thing almost. All right, so now I'm gonna use the airbrush, and I'm using the airbrush for the purpose of just locking in the fiber so that way they'll stay longer, because you never want to do enhancements where they wipe off almost right away. So I like this airbrush machine because it's easier to clean this. Just twist off, you clean it, you're done, versus the machine. So I like this. You just charge it, USB port, and then see how the L, see how it fit right in there? So what I do is I start, so I can see where it's falling at, I start spraying on the card first, and then I get close to it. So I can see how it's spraying.
Is it the same with the fibers you spray at a distance?
Hmm?
I said, is it the same with the fibers you spray at a distance?
Yep, you spread the difference with the airbrush. And then I just clean the excess up with the razor. So for those of you who don't know, the correct way to razor is the razor from this side. But because of the fact that we be so in tune with making sure that that we don't mess up the person's head, what we do, it's like we done start razoring like this now. Because you don't want to touch the work that you just did.
So you say the correct way is to razor down instead of up?
Yeah, you're supposed to razor down instead of up like that. But this is not bad. It's just that all right. Or you can use the liners if you want, just to get the excess hair, if it'll take it off. All right, so put the airbrush back on there. Got to make sure your your knob is where it's supposed to be at when you're using your enhancements, so it won't spray out too sparsely.
So you like to land it halfway on the car and halfway on the head.
Yep,
Like a break on the head.
exactly. So I'm spraying it sparsely so that way I can kind of know where I am with it. You know what I'm saying? Just getting excess with the liners. And we good to go. What y'all think?
Yeah, we need a spin.
A little spin. Huh?
You looking in the mirror at your own work?
I don't got to look at my own work. I know what I did already. And then I just lock in, just in order to make sure, like the airbrush and the fibers, I just lock it in with the Larry's Barber Maximus Man
That's what's in
product
the-
spritz.
like the- How much is that? Is it free?
And then a little oil sheen.
Traffic distance?
Good. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Hey, thank y'all for looking at this video. Hopefully it helped y'all. Tell me what y'all want to see next. This is the ball fade. I tried to show y'all the way I would do a ball fade. I don't want to say the correct way to do a ball fade, but the way I would do a ball fade, there's a million different ways to do a ball fade. I use the fibers, I use the airbrush, and I use the blades versus just using my masters on one side to show y'all you can still make the haircut look the same way. And, I taught y'all about the temporal area, the occipital, the crown of the head. Very, very important. Y'all get y'all barber's license at Larry's Barber College. We all over the place. Let's do it.